and then we're live. So just so you know, we do live stream. And this is kept on, video forever, so beware. Are we ready, Josh? All right, I'd like to start by recognizing and acknowledging the common people, the Songhees and Esquimalt nations, whose traditional territories we live, we learn, and we do our work. And we're gathered on tonight to have our board meeting, and it's so nice to see people in the audience that are here to do a little bit of celebrating, because I know why you're here. And look forward to that presentation. And we have, we're gonna go around the table and do some introductions. And I think, are you a RAF?
Oh, yeah.
You belong over here. Come on and join us. We have a couple of student reps that will be sitting around the table tonight too. And RAF, I'm gonna get you in a moment to introduce yourself.
Okay.
So we'll start over with Carolyn and go around the table.
Hi everyone, my name is Carolyn Howe. My pronouns are she, her. I'm an elementary teacher at South Park, music and primary teacher, but right now I am seconded as president of the Greater Victoria Teachers Association.
It's Rachel Kayla. My name is Annabelle Foxister. I am the student success manager for Songhees Nation, and I'm also a Songhees Nation member on behalf of the nation.
Hi, I'm Sarah Winter. I am principal of Strawberry Vale, and I am the president of the Victoria Principals Vice Principals Association.
Hi, I'm Marnie Christensen Harwood. I'm the director of facilities.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sean Powell. I am an associate superintendent with our school district.
Evening, my name is Todd Arts, Deputy Superintendent.
Great, I'm gonna go over to you, David.
Good evening, everyone. My name is David Ovis, the Director of Instruction, Learning and Inclusion. Sean McCartney, also Director of Instruction, Learning and Inclusion.
Mike Knudsen, head of chart.
Jennifer Person, director of IT.
Josh Parks, District Administrator at IT.
Great, we'll come back to this table. I'm Sherry Bell. I'm the official trustee of the school district.
And Deb Whitten, the superintendent. Hi, everyone. I'm Katrina Stride, secretary and treasurer.
I'm Julie Ludner. I'm the Associate Secretary and Treasurer.
Tricia Sturgeon, EA at SJ Burnside and QP 9%.
Norman Isaac, president of QP 382 and a painter for the school district.
My name is Sala McCormack. I'm the chair of the Victoria Confederation of Parent Advisory Councils.
I'm Maro. I'm with Alabama Park and I represent my school at the Student Council of the district.
Great, thank you and welcome. So we have some new people around the table. So welcome, Salome. This is your first board meeting, and welcome, Marika. And I think we will have Lily might join us, also a student. And Shelley Wilton will be here too. She's double booked tonight, so she'll kind of slip in probably half an hour or so. So welcome, everyone. I just want to go over a few things before we get started. So in the Victoria School District, as you can see, around the board table, we have partners of the school district that have introduced themselves, and how the board meetings operate through bylaw 9360 is that if we come to a substantive motion, I will pause before moving on and ask people just at this table if they have a comment or a question they'd like to make. Oftentimes people do, sometimes they don't, and we move on from there. District celebrations are coming up pretty soon, and I see that the audience is mostly here for the celebration. So when we get to that part, it becomes pretty informal. And when we pass it over to Charmaine Short, she's going to tell us what we can be doing if we're sitting or standing, and I leave that completely up to you, however you'd like us to sit. So moving along, there's also in the agenda, there's a question period that comes later on in the agenda. We have one submitted question that's coming online, and then if there are people in the audience that have a question, they can fill the question out in the question box and submit it before the superintendent's report, and then it will be read out loud in part of the minutes. Just a reminder about that. And I'd like to start by approving the agenda for this evening. That motion is carried along with approval of the minutes from our last meeting. And now we move to A5 in the agenda, which is district celebrations. And it's over to District Principal of Early Years and Childcare, Charmaine Short.
Wonderful, thank you. Oh my goodness. Wonderful to be here and especially to be part of the celebration. So thank you, Trustee Bell, for taking upon these meetings to really think deeply about the wonderful work that's going on in our district. And I have such a pleasure in being here tonight with this incredible group. There's a whole lot of heart sitting right here, so you might be able to feel that. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Charmaine and I am the principal of early learning and childcare. And in that role, I have the great pleasure of working with childcare providers in our childcare on school grounds. And I also get to work with the facilities team who build and maintain our childcare on school grounds. And I get to work here at Tony with the district team in all the important priority work that is the focus here. Inclusion, cultural safety and responsiveness, and mental health and well-being, literacy and learning, of course. And all of those things start in the early years. And it's an incredible investment. Everything we do in the early years comes back and stays in the future. So we're looking right here at our early childhood educators. And they, with the hard work and relationships, and I like to think a little bit of magic, they make beautiful things happen alongside teachers in kindergarten classrooms. So when we welcome up to 1,400 new littles into our system every year, it's a lot of little faces, a lot of little friends, and we want to know each one of them. We want to know all their stories, all about them, and we want to plan for them. And that is a mammoth undertaking because there's a lot of complexity there and there's a lot of layers to that. So when we say we build relationships, it's easy to say, much harder to do, and these people here are among the school teams who do that hard work. So what a pleasure today to speak to that work. I think about, in the essence, I was trying to layer it all back. What do early childhood educators do? And they are really about foundations and roots. We really want our littles to have strong roots and a grounded confidence in who they are so that they become independent, happy, fulfilled adults. And it takes showing up every day to do that. It's not something that just happens. For those of us who are parents, we know that as well. So I mentioned inclusion and cultural safety and responsiveness and mental health and well-being, literacy. Early learning encompasses all of those things. And each one of those things is explored through play. So an early childhood educator is trained in play-based learning and early childhood development. So by bringing them alongside our kindergarten teachers, we are bolstering up our early years classrooms for the best start we can provide. I have behind me some wonderful examples, and I can honestly have 65,000 of these for all the pictures that were sent to me this past few years. But really, these are moments of connection and moments of a child finding their own way. And through play, we create inclusion. Because each one of these pictures shows a child finding their own way for learning and finding their own path forward to their next achievable goal. And it's these people right here who get to know the children, think about them, and plan for those next steps. They work alongside kindergarten teachers in a collaborative role. That is new. That's big work. And it hasn't come without pebbles in the path. So I want to commend the early childhood educators and their partner teachers for that perseverance and that journey, because it's showing up in success of us growing each year. We started with our Strong Start educators spending time in the afternoons in classrooms, and we're growing and we're growing.
and we have about half of our ECs here tonight. So a huge thank you to our senior leadership and our board for prioritizing and investing in early years. It's going to come back and thank all of us with a thriving society. It's just one of those immeasurable pieces. So I have here ECEs from 12 different schools, and I really hope that before you leave today, you can just take notice of these moments. And they happen every day. These aren't glorified, highlight, showcase moments. These are snapshots of things that these people are designing and executing and facilitating with love and nurture every day. So please join me in celebrating our early childhood educators.
I have some questions if you, and I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but because this is new, I need to get a bigger picture of, the day-to-day. So, you know, Charmaine, you talked about, working alongside the kindergarten teachers. What does that look like? And if you wanna, if somebody wanna just volunteer to kind of tell me what your day is like, and is there an overlap with childcare, Strong Start, because there's so much early learning and even the ministry has changed the name over the past number of years to include early learning and childcare. So maybe if you want to start by just framing it with Strong Start, partnerships, childcare, how does that all work together? And then maybe someone could volunteer just to kind of map out what's your day, what do you do?
Amazing. Oh, yeah.
Well, I know I'm a strong sort of coordinator at Mackenzie School, so I do both positions. So I am able to work with the families and the children first thing in the morning and do that in the morning, and then I venture off with the kindergarten class in the afternoon. And I meet with the kindergarten teachers in the morning, usually we collaborate about what their day looks like, what they're gonna be doing in the afternoon, what their month looks like for theme or things that they may be doing. And then I implement things by bringing in publications and different things to, and then they also, I'm very lucky because I have a Strong Start classroom. The kindergarten can come into my classroom and I can set up things there. But in other situations, we've set up things in the hallway and small groups, so we take small groups. If the teacher's working on something in specific, I can take 4 kids who may not want to be working in a huge group, and we can isolate and do small groups. And we can do that through play. So I can do letters and numbers in our black and rice, and we can spell words, and we can look at pictures and say, what does that sound like? And we play, and we're learning together as a group of people. So we can implement that kind of thing, and working with the teachers, we're able to say, okay, this little guy, this child might need a little bit of extra. Can we bring a friend and can we do some work on that? So we're not taking an AA position, not that kind of stuff. It's definitely about learning and learning in a calm and peaceful way and learning in groups, small groups. So that we're able to just move along with the teachers and collaborate, saying, you know, oh, I've got a great idea. You're doing salmon. I've got this really great salmon project. I can do with that more. I can do this activity with them and I can do these parts. And so we collaborate together and we bring more play into learning and into small groups and large groups.
Great, thank you. That actually paints a better picture with the Strong Start and piece. And is there anyone else that has a little bit of a?
I can share just, I'm enjoying relationship with teachers, just getting to know what it's like to be a teacher and what it's like to be an early childhood educator. And just learning how to bridge that connection. So it's quite fascinating to see the different styles and learning how to offer and receive and how we can grow on what mistakes we made and go forward and being with different teachers every year. So that part of it's been really exciting, learning how to, and it's still a process. So I'm enjoying it.
So, somebody else had their hand up. If you want to add something, else.
Thank you. So yeah, just to add on to at least Bryce, similar to a lot of our roles on Bryce and Learn or the classrooms. I was originally trained in England. England, they had this collaboration with early learning and teachers. Early years, so my teacher training is up to grade 2 as a collaborative educator. And so it's really been neat to see this unfold here in BC as well. And I would say alongside those supplemental learning activities we do is something called inquiry-based learning, which really fosters the inclusivity and the cultural backgrounds of the children. So I might do something, for example, the pictures that you'll see later of the children cutting vegetables for soup. This was something the children were interested in, what I was eating soup. And they were asking me where I bought my soup, and then I said that I made my soup, and they said, you can make soup. So we started this whole project on bringing in vegetables and cutting up vegetables, and so just bringing in, I mean, I can't even say how many learning outcomes are just in course of making soup. And then I'll often do something like that alongside the teacher, and then I'll send them the learning outcomes that we've done. So for example, making soup, making applesauce, they've learned science, they've learned numeracy, they've learned literacy, they've learned practical skills, and it's all being inclusive, and every single child is so engaged in these activities too. So.
What's fascinating to me is, I remember, and it wasn't that long ago, when we just had a half-day kindergarten. And then full day K came in, that was a big deal. We worked really hard as a district to make sure that was successful and strong start. And so I think as a province and a district, but as a province, we've done a really good job with ECEs and kindergarten teachers together, and expanding the day for a kindergarten student. I have grandchildren now, and some of them live in other provinces where that doesn't happen. It's kindergarten half day. So it's really remarkable how this has progressed, and the importance of early childhood education. We all know as educators and as people that work in the system, that the better the start the child has, the stronger their academic career will be. So hats off to all of you for the work that you do and the partnerships that you have in the school district. And for the most important work, I would say, with our early learners. It's absolutely, just give me goosebumps to think of how you spend your days and how those little minds go home so excited about what they've learned and love to tell their grandmother and others what they've done. So thank you so much, and again, huge hats off to you for everything, and thanks for coming tonight. We really appreciated it. Great, thank you. Any other questions from the table before we go ahead?
I see a familiar face that has been at the same place for I think over 20 years.
Actually 33 years.
Yes, so my sons were at school and she was.
This is Anna Day.
Yes.
Seven. Yeah, I've actually been at Great Flower for 33 years. I was an educational assistant, but I always had my ECE. And so I did a COBIS, like this is all come full circle, and Tammy Coughlin were there, and I'm like, can we get a strong start? and we got a strong start at Great Flower. So I'm very thankful because I love to see the parents for children and have their own children, and it fills my heart to see that it continues. And then I feel it there.
Oh my God, well, that's amazing. Beautiful way to conclude. Thank you so much. And you're welcome to stay, but if you have other plans, feel free to leave whenever you want to leave. There's no obligation to stay for the rest of the meeting. So thank you for coming.
Yeah.
No. I just all right, so we'll go back to the agenda. A6, there are no community presentations this month. B, correspondence, you'll see a letter in the package from the Greater Victoria Teachers Association, written to me. And then we'll move down to C1, which is my monthly report. I'd like to start with an experience that I had last week. I was at Tillicum Elementary School, where Elder Marianne Thomas was blessing the land outside Tillicum, because the school, along with the municipality of Saanich, had applied for a grant through the UBCM and received the grant to do a number of greening projects at the school. And some of it was to create shade, some was to plant green space and to plant other plants and flowers. So Elder Marianne Thomas came and what just absolutely floored me were so this is a K-5 school. The gym is filled with the children. We have some drummers that were doing some drumming to start with. Elder Thomas was speaking along with the principal and others, and the children were quiet. They were listening, they were engaged, and not that that should be a surprise, but it is like, it was a long ceremony, and then we all went outside, and I thought, oh, could go sideways here, because I'm an elementary school teacher and a principal, and nope, all the children just followed wherever Elder Thomas was going when she was blessing the land, and they were listening to her, and she was moving around the grounds, and everyone just followed, and you could see some of the kids that would kind of figure out where we're going next, and then they try to, I don't think I'm gonna try to get in the front this time. They weren't going to run off to the swings. They were really, really engaged, and it was incredible. The blessing was, the protocol was beautifully done. And I think everyone there got something out of it. And then it ended with each child getting some salmon and some vegetables as a way of having a feast at the end of the blessing. It was beautiful. So that was probably the highlight for me this month. And I also visited another school. I went to Torquay Elementary School and got a tour of that school. Talked to some people there about what their plans were, what they're looking forward to, and walked around into some classrooms. I actually walked into one classroom and there was a big fuss made, and I thought, why would this be happening? Well, they thought I was the new teacher. They were waiting for their new teacher to start. I thought, I think that feels pretty good that that's what the kids thought, but they were grade 4. And I've continued to work with BCSTA, the Trustees Association, on a policy framework. I have another meeting this week. And so hopefully in the near future, I'll be able to bring a framework to our partners, School District 61 table, and also to the board table to just look at policy review work that has been done by the Trustees Association. There's been a jurisdictional scan done of districts that have updated and renewed their policies. They're looking at definitions, what is the policy, what isn't. You're gonna see some things tonight that were from the 70s that are no longer policy, should be policies. And more to come on that one. You've heard me speak about this a number of times, but the electoral changes that so the history goes back to I think it was somewhere in 2024, maybe the fall of 2024, the town of Esquimalt wrote to the previous board asking if they would consider bringing the group together to look at electoral areas rather than an at-large system for elected trustees. They were asked to contact the ministry, so eventually I'm here. They contact the ministry along with some other municipalities and 2 First Nations. And then I worked with the task force. We had a public engagement online opportunity for feedback that took place for, well, 5 weeks. And we had a public meeting that was held last month. And so the task force has completed the work that they were doing, and I've submitted a letter to the minister asking her to look at the proposed changes, and the proposed changes haven't changed since the last time I spoke to you about this. And I anticipate that I know there's at least one, maybe two other school districts that were also putting in proposed changes to government, so I'm guessing that the minister will look at all of them at the same time and make some decisions. And for the task force and also for a lot of the, the public and others, the big change that has been pretty much unanimously supported throughout is the proposes that a trustee would be elected from Songhees Nation and one from Squamish Nation, and that is the I think it would be groundbreaking if that is accepted by the ministry. I don't know what the proposal looks like from other districts that are coming in, but I would like to think that we would be the first to do that should it be approved. So we'll more on that as we move forward and we hear things back from government. I think I'll conclude my report there and move from there to superintendent's report. Over to you, Superintendent.
Great, thank you very much. So you'll see around page 13 of the packet, my report for, I'll say the month of October, but it is an early month. So, I think very important to highlight the learning that occurred on the September 29th, the day before the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. Some pictures there of the learning, the important learning that occurred in the school that day prior to the September 30th day. Also just pointing out some other things as Trustee Bell had talked about the September 29th land blessing as well. You'll see pictures on the second page of that, and I too attended and also echo the very impressive student engagement for that length of time and where they were at. And just again, as I always like to do, close with gratitude. First of all, gratitude to the early childhood educators who came this evening. I thought that was a very special way to acknowledge the important work that they do and the bridge into kindergarten and that piece of learning. Also, want to acknowledge teachers, the World Teachers Day, and want to acknowledge and recognize the work that they do every day with students. And also the gratitude I have for Raf, who's here as a student who provides feedback in our monthly meetings to the student representative group. This is his second year doing it, so do appreciate that you have last year's experience and then you're coming in again as the second year. So thank you very much, and thank you for coming this evening, as I know you and other student reps have lots going on, so appreciate that. And that is my October report.
Thank you. On to the elementary school plans. Over to you.
Yeah, great, thank you very much. So as for the school act, we are to present and have approved the school plans each year. We've divided them up so that elementary will come in the month of October, middle will come in November, and secondary school plans will come in December, and there are links in the packet starting on page 15. I think over time, we certainly paid more attention to the school goals and school plans, and we get into a continuous improvement cycle, which this is shown as a snapshot of where schools are at as we extract their goals. So as we all know, this is continuous, that learning occurs all the time, and that too happens with adult learners. And so when we have meetings with the principals and vice principals, we really are looking at the school goals through this cycle. So that last year we spent time looking at data, identifying a goal or two based on the data, Also looking at the strategy that should be attached to the goal. And then implementing the strategy and monitoring that strategy or those outcomes throughout the year. So it's iterative. At any point in time, we're looking at what is happening in the school at that time and what could we be doing differently. So in the packet are the elementary school plans for this particular year. And they too will be reflected in talk with both the school facts as well as the school staff about why they're a goal, how they become a goal, and what work is going to go for this year on that goal.
I have a few questions. In reviewing the package and looking at all the school goals, a few things struck me, just how different each school goes up. There's no generic, kind of cookie cutter look to goals. Some schools have 3, some have 1. Last month when you reported from the Esler report, you're talking about every school having a literacy goal. I think this coming up here. Can you talk a little bit about how that will work?
Sure. So as it is iterative, we began the year this year at DLM, which is the district leadership meeting, really looking at our data around literacy and seeing that there are improvements that could be made. And so we talked with the principals and vice principals about ensuring that one of their goals, if they have one, that's one. If they have more than one, that minimally one of those goals would be literacy focused. And they would have conversations with staff and PATH around what that goal would be. But it would be a literacy focus. And so that will take us this year. We expect that to sort of happen from now or September all the way through to April. So next year at this time, you should see elementary schools all have a literacy goal. And I think, I would say the majority of them already do, but if they don't, they will have to for the next school year.
I noticed that there was, I can't remember which school, had a reading goal and a writing goal and then a kind of social responsibility goal or 2, and others were just, they had 1 perhaps literacy goal. And so when you say literacy, is it reading, writing, speaking? Like, what is it, or is it focused on one area? What are they?
We didn't focus it beyond the literacy. And
Okay.
so each of us will meet with the principals around what their goals are for the year. And we're talking about what they will become for next year. And some have shared their, they've been working on writing and they want to stay with that goal. Some have shared that they don't actually have a literacy goal, so they're having conversations with staff about what that might look like. We're really trying to pull in the data and have them examine what their data is telling them. And what the street data is telling them, what our teachers experiencing in classrooms, and pick a goal that makes most sense for their school in their context.
Good. Before I get to the motion, anyone at the table have a question or comment? Yes, Salma.
Hi, yeah, I just heard that that's what you said it's a continuous plan, right, the improvement plan. And so how do schools evaluate whether they reach their goals and, you know, what happens if they don't reach their goals?
Yeah, thank you very much. That's a great question. So when we look at the continuous improvement, there's a circle. But we also look at timing within the school year. So in our administrative meetings, probably in April, we're talking about what was your goal? What were the strategies that you intended to use? Did they work? Did they not work? What is your data telling you about what we see through standardized assessments, but also through report card data and again, as you see street level data, what are teachers telling you? Did it work as they begin to plan for the next school year? And so we do that in our admin meetings in the spring, and then we also celebrate the work that happened. So it's iterative in nature, but it also happens in a somewhat structured timeline.
Oh, okay, thank you. I also want to just say, there are a couple goals on for Doncaster on page 21.
Sorry, I don't think we're gonna get into other people's plans. It's just.
No, the goals that are in the agenda aren't finished, the sentences aren't.
Okay,
finished.
thank you.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, sorry, thanks. Okay, I thought we were gonna.
On page 21.
Yeah,
No problem.
thanks, sorry, it's on.
No problem.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, so the recommended motion is that official trustee of SC 61, Greater Victoria, approve the 2025-26 elementary school plans as presented. And that motion is carried, and next month we have Millie, right?
Yes.
Okay. Climate action working group, and I think I have to move away from the screen at this point. Okay.
Give me 1 second.
So as soon as we're done here, we're going to pass it over to Assistant Superintendent Powell and our Director of Facilities to go through, just before you start, when I was reading through the package, just the way this was presented, I was really excited about the hearing presentation because there's a lot of information and it was really well laid out. But I kept coming up with some questions. So do you want questions as you go, or you want me to wait until the end?
I think questions as we go. I'm looking at Marty because we're kind of sharing this presentation, but I think if somebody has something that's misleading or they're confused, absolutely jump in. I'm going to be talking, first of all, before I start, just whenever technology works. Thank you, Josh Burks, for making sure that it always does. I really appreciate that. We're going to talk about our climate action working group, what we do in that working group, and then a little bit of history too, because it was a climate action ad hoc committee before. And the job of that committee was to put together a climate action plan. So we're going to talk just a little bit about, and then I'm going to pass to Marnie, and Marnie is going to talk about the initiatives that are happening in our district right now that support that plan. I think there's a lot of great work. I'm excited for you to be able to get to see that. So to jump in, just and I want to apologize and also thank people at the same time. There's been dozens of people that have been part of this climate action plan, the ad hoc committee, in the last 4 years. I couldn't possibly thank everyone right now, but I'd like to thank the groups that they represent, because I know there's a number of people that are sitting at this table tonight that have been a part of that. So I would like to thank the students that have been a part of our climate action committee. I'd like to thank IED. We've had members from our IED department have been a part of it. I'd like to thank QP 947, 382, GVCA principals and vice principals. We always have members on the climate action plan doing that work. Our parents, VC PAC has been represented on that committee. So again, wish I could name the 27 people that were on the list of all the minutes, but instead want to represent that those people there and that this work, this climate action plan really is a collaborative effort. So thank you to everybody that's been a part of that committee in the past. I think because I can get going here. Climate action plan, for those people that don't have it in front of them, you can always jump on the website, or as I usually do, I just Google SD61 climate action plan. It'll be the first thing that pops up. We have 5 pillars. That's really what the plan is anchored around. So you can see those 5 areas on there is really what the whole plan is about: learn, engagement, leadership, lands and water stewardship, waste reduction, energy management, sustainable transportation. And each one of those pillars, there's objectives. There's things that when we initially created this plan, we have objectives that we'd like to reach at. We put a plan in place and what we want to do. We'll come together 6 or 7 times this year and focus on what is it that we want to accomplish. we're fortunate, we do have some staff, I'd like to just shout out Brian Leslie, who has done a lot of work, and some of his work that will be presented tonight by Marnie, so in that plan. Tonight, Marnie's really gonna focus on 3 of those pillars. And just a couple of notes that our energy conservation strategies are outlined in a SEM plan or our strategic energy management plan. So again, if you'd like to do more reading, it's connected to that, but there's a lot of work in there, and that we're part of BC Hydro Energy Wise network program as well. So again, something else that you could read about, but that we've been linked in our climate action plan has been linked to as well. This time I'm gonna pass. Marnie.
I'll try not to screw it up, but Josh is here, so that's good. Utilities, so this surprised me, so annually, the district spends upwards of $4 million on utilities, so just our gas, water, and electricity, so quite a sum. Decisions are made to decrease the carbon footprint and decrease the use of the energy resources, as was said before. Brian Leslie is a big proponent and trying to save energy. He's constantly turning down heat in facilities, so we know all about that. I do want to point out, even the small improvements within the school district actually do have a huge impact on these utility costs. So water and leak protection. So within the last year, we've finally been able to track the water consumption in the districts from all 5 municipalities. That's been a big feat. The district uses a predictive water equation to determine areas of high leak probability. Then they investigate these sites using real-time monitoring equipment. Essentially, they identify leaks, they fix them. In the last year, there's been $25,000 saved in leaks alone, which were identified and corrected, which was pretty impressive. And also due to the leak detection, which is not on the slide, the district obtained a $65,000 credit from one municipality. Just that there was a faulty water meter that we were overcharged for. So that was nice. The graph there since 2016 is actually showing a downward decrease, which is great. 23-24, I just mentioned those leaks, so they popped up and we're starting to see a downward trend again, which is great. For natural gas consumption, this is an interesting graph because lots has gone on. So there's been a downward trend that's been driven by the heating plant and the building control, so the DVC control upgrades since 2010. There was a sharp uptick in 2016, 2017, just due to really cold weather here. Happens every once in a while here. And then 2019 to 2023, there's increased due to COVID because we had our dampers wide open and we had to keep all the incoming air. And then we had our windows wide open as well. So we're starting now to see the slow downward trend just because of the heating plant upgrades, DVC upgrades, but also because of continuous optimization. And this program was actually implemented in the school in the year 2022-23. The district works with BC Hydro for this, who pays for the initial review of the building. And then the school district has 1 year to implement these findings. It is typically a 1 to 5 year return on investments. And many of the projects that are done actually deal with and address greenhouse gas emissions. So some of the examples are we review heating controls to ensure we heat the spaces that are occupied. For example, we don't heat the schools anymore when we're out for Christmas holidays when no one's in the building. And this is a really good time right now when there's a lot of rentals in our buildings. We need to heat for the rentals, but we don't need to heat when, like the classrooms, for example, where the teachers are present. So we deal with that. Some of the other items that we address are broken or stuck dampers. So we address this because that's, if the damper is open 100%, cold air is coming inside, but we actually have to heat the cold air, so that costs money as well. And Brian just actually implemented a button on rental gyms, which provides the clients the ability to hit the button and they get more heat if they want to. So we don't have to heat the gym to a really hot temperature when most of the times they don't want it anyways because they're playing basketball or whatever else we're doing now. Just some examples of the heating plant and digital control upgrades that we did 2 years ago. So we just have 1 year data now. So at Eagle View, it used to have 1 boiler and we replaced it with 2 high efficiency boilers just for redundancy. And we also did the DDC controls. Eagle View is really interesting because it's one of 2 sites that actually has an addition onto the school for childcare. And the childcare itself has an electric heating load that also has a heat pump for cooling, but it also helps with the heating load as well.
So you can see that the natural gas last year decreased by 46%. And then Colquitt's, we replaced 2 boilers with 4 high efficiency boilers. We did not do a DDC control upgrade at that time. And there was a 22% decrease of,
Maureen, can you answer a question about, so that number, the 46% really jumped out that, and I know we can't do all schools in 1 year, because we don't have the funding for it, but that's substantial, and so how many schools, like, would you be able to say, have that kind of boiler DPC upgrade to make that significant jump?
well, that's a hard one. We try and do 1 to 2 every single year. We actually have 2 heating plant upgrades to keep up with our end of life equipment. The ministry usually funds us for 1 a year, and then we try to squish 1 into our AFG funding. This one was really interesting because we did have an addition, and that addition is electric, but it also has that heat pump that takes some of the heating load off,
Right.
and that's electricity for the heat pump. So it's, I don't think we're gonna get that high of
Okay.
in another year, but the 22% is pretty impressive in Colquitt's alone. Any other questions? Like I was saying, the ministry does fund us for usually 1 upgrade a year, so that's our 5-year capital plan that we submitted last March. And those are the five projects there in Torquay Land that we have. This year, they funded us for Oaklands. We're also through AFG, we're doing some direct digital control upgrades at those 4 schools, and they should be done by Christmas time. So we'll see some really good natural gas decreases in consumption for those 4 schools in a year's time. We'll be able to track the data in a year. And of course, we have Cedar Hill Middle School that came online as a net zero energy school.
Can you just, again, with Cedar Hill, so if you were to compare the old Cedar Hill to the anticipated new Cedar Hill, what would you say would be the gains going with, because there's a thermal system, there's the ground source heat pumps, I mean, that it's a very energy efficient school. As far as, not necessarily costs, it's more in savings as far as environment savings.
Yeah, I think also comfort too. I think that once the school actually gets the geothermal loop it won't be installed until the old school's down. So we're looking around June. So I think in come May, June, when it's installed, they're gonna find it comfortable because it's gonna be a little bit cooler than their old school, which will be really, really nice. The solar array will be really nice because that's to the energy or the electricity. So, and I also think like the ground source and the air source heat pump, when they're all up and running, we're not gonna be really using the backup boiler that much. The backup boiler is gonna be on those really, really cold days where the air source heat pump can't quite keep up. We're talking like minus 5, minus 10, which we don't get to a lot, but the backup boiler will just kick on and take the chill off and then allow the air source heat pump to take the load off. That's my understanding of the system.
It'll be interesting to see the data in the year, so
There will be.
the energy efficiency.
Yeah, the old school is not that
Not,
energy efficient. So annual electricity costs. So the top graph, I read my notes here. The top graph, these projections are based on the rate of electrical costs increasing from 2010 to 2018. So the top graph, just not the dotted line, it just has a big increasing trend. And that's if there is no energy upgrades whatsoever in our school district, we'll just keep going up and up and up. And essentially there's an approximation that it would be, we've saved $2.5 million by starting our energy upgrades in 2019. So that's a lot of money to save. And if you look at 24-25, there's been $700,000 in avoided costs in 24-25 alone. And the hash line there is what I'm referring to with saving $2.5 million costs. It's just a accumulation of that hash line. And some of the work that Brian's been ongoing is, I think everybody's heard about the LED upgrades throughout the project. So he's been going throughout the district and just moving our old lights to LED upgrades, our LED lights. There's about a 2 to 3 return on investment, and we've received about $250,000 on rebates alone. And when we collect those rebates, it goes straight into other energy projects within our school district, which is nice. I should also point out that electricity is about 3 times more than natural gas, so saving electricity, even though it doesn't have a lot of greenhouse gas emissions, it's still important for the bottom line. And the projected savings for these LED upgrades is about 12 gigawatts overall so far, so. Childcare units, as I've mentioned, this is just a standalone childcare unit. We've been bringing these online now for a number of years. There's about 19 sites that have these. Most have these standalone units. There's two, AW being one of them and B Royal being another that have been in addition to a current building. They're fully electric buildings, so it's got a really light carbon footprint, which is great. And then the solars, we have two solar projects within our school, the Cedar Hill Middle School, which has a 100 kilowatt photovoltaic array. And then Torquay has another solar array, just a tiny little one of 24 kilowatts, and it generates roughly 20 megawatt hours per year. Torquay and Victor are only two fully electric schools. So Torquay itself uses 300 megawatts annually in electricity because it is a fully electric school and it's fully heated by electricity. Energy initiatives. So these campaigns, Brian's been doing a great job and they raise awareness and help to change habits both at school and at home. They're very low cost, but have a huge impact and are engaging for students and staff. There are a number of programs such as the sweater days, light switch stickers, space heater defeater, door stickers, and the paper scorecards. I just want to point out the paper scorecard. So this was actually implemented in 2023, and there was 18% drop in carbon footprint from using just sugar sheet paper alone, which is pretty impressive. The feeling is more and more schools are coming online with these, and we're going to see an even better drop in carbon footprint from sugar sheet paper alone. Just going over the paper scorecard for South Park that I have up here. They used to be ranked last year number 20, so they're ranked number 1 this year. There's only 27 elementary schools because we didn't include Sundance because they're not quite a K-5 school yet, so that's why there's only ranked 1 out of 27. They actually used 706 kilograms of CO2 for paper used at South Park, which is very, very low. And if they switched to 100% sugar sheet, it would save about. Talking to Brian, it's really hard to get to 100% sugar sheet just because we're talking the 10 by 11 by 8.5, that sugar sheet, but your 11 by 17 is not. So we're only looking at the paper that's used in the printer. Some schools have not taken up the sugar sheet as well, and Brian's working with them. So one school, it's a very big school, they use the equivalent of 15,196. So that's equivalent of taking 3 cars off the road. So we're feeling that they're going to get on board this year.
This is amazing, this slide. And do all of the elementary schools, would each school know what their stats are like that?
Yeah. We share it with our staff, or I have my school every year in September. I'm like, here's where we are from last year. And we talk about how we can help save, yes, the environment and our school bus, but we can change.
And it goes middle school and high school as well. They all get their own parts, and I don't want to say compete against each other, but they're aware of their sport. Fleet, so we do have some zero emission fleets. So we've got our 4 electric buses, and facilities currently has 3 electric fleet vehicles, a little car there in the picture. We do have 18 chargers throughout the school. Some of the chargers are installed at the Kai and Cedar Hill just because of the building permits. And we do have the 4 charging stations at Colquitt for the buses, and we do have a number of charging stations at facilities that assist us if there's something that happens with the electric charging bus stations. We can bring the bus to facilities, but we're also planning for future electric fleet as well. So the district is also starting to collect carbon credits for the electric buses, and we're looking to move to collect carbon credits for the vehicles as well. And this will decrease the amount of money the district pays in utilities yearly as the carbon credits are applied to the district's costs. And I should note that when we installed the chargers at facilities, Brian was able to get a 60% rebate on the installation of the chargers. Don't know how, but that's pretty incredible. Just a quick summary. I think we are moving in the right direction to decrease our energy use, which is nice. We are actively working to decrease not only energy, but greenhouse gas emissions with all the items that I've said, the boiler upgrades and the DDC upgrades, continuous optimization program that I think will be valuable for years to come. energy awareness, water tracking, solar, LED, the electric vehicles and the new childcare builds. We're definitely doing the right steps.
Thank you. This is something to be really proud of. I'm really impressed with the efforts that have been undertaken in those three areas from the plan. I'm just gonna do something that, there's no motion attached to this, but because it's a compelling presentation, I just wanted to see if there were any questions or comments from people.
Salome, congratulations, that's very good to see so much savings. So my question is, what happens to the savings and who makes the decision on what to do with the savings?
So if we get a rebate back, we put like the LED rebates, we put them back into the energy budget and then we use it for their energy projects. As far as the utility savings, I'll let Julie or Regina answer that one.
Budget savings are then used to help lower our structural deficit.
Thank you very much. That was a really great presentation and congratulations to Sean, to the committee and to facility staff. I haven't seen numbers like this before. It's very impressive. Thank you. We're still on superintendent's report. We're going to move to E1D, revision or deletion of board policies.
Great, so this starts in the packet on page 82 and just wanna sort of highlight a few things as we continue to review the policies as we do driving up to them manually and looking at which ones need and which ones no longer relevant within our district, both based on what changes have happened in curriculum, where we're at with governance structures and really, to be honest, some of them having not looked at for several years, we recognize quickly that they're no longer no longer part of the district in a variety of ways, whether it's a job description, which shouldn't be currently as a policy, or whether it's referencing a course or program or a support that's no longer done in the district. So the memo outlines 12 job related policies that some of which we do not have that job, some of which should not be, or all of which should not be actually a policy. The ones that have stars are ones that we do currently have people in those positions and they're relevant, that will become or are currently job descriptions that sit in HR. And so some of them we don't have current job descriptions and we'll be doing work over the year to make sure that they're current. And other ones we have and they will be within HR, but the proposal is to remove these as policies if they're not, it shouldn't really be a policy as a governance policy. And then we have 5 other ones that were all coincidentally written in the 70s. So I'll go through them. You have policy 1162, which references educational heritage. Approved in 1979, hasn't been revised since 1979. It's not a governance consideration. And so as we continue to definitely value the preservation of historical significance, we will be doing that work in an operational format versus a policy governance format. 1325.4 publicity for non-school events, again approved in 1972. It references how schools should deal with the publicity of an event. We have these conversations with school admin and throughout when events may come forward. Again, I would see this information coming into an admin regulation or admin procedure, but not a policy. Policies 4152.51 and 6164.1 are both should be referenced in collective agreements and not in a policy. And then they are updated as the collective agreement moved rather than a policy from 1973. And then for the last one is policy 4199, and that's staff reports approved in 1976. It references where and how staff reports come to the Board of School Trustees. We report in different manners, and that is captured both in the bylaws and also in the way that we meet and have our annual board report. So some of it is determined by reports we receive and are required to provide from the ministry, and some is within our district. So again, I would see that being written in an admin procedure or admin regulation rather than it being in policy. So recommendation is to remove all of these 17 policies and have them represented in an admin procedure or an HR job description, or not at all, based on the topic.
Thank you. This is a continuation of our conversation that was at the board table last month around policies that I shared, I think last month, that the BCSTA did a jurisdictional scan. Unfortunately, we won for most policies and the most outdated policies and the oldest policies in the province. So what is here are, again, job descriptions, which should not be policy, and irrelevant policies that are either in a collective agreement or aren't used at all with those 1970s. Before the motion is put forward, I just wonder if there's comments or questions from anyone at the table. Yep, Karen?
Yeah, thanks. You said some would be more properly encompassed by admin procedure, is that what you said? Could you explain a little bit about the difference to us about what's a policy versus an admin procedure?
Yeah, thank you. So how we're looking at it is as a policy is a governance overriding urging statement of what the board believes. Admin procedure is operationalizing the work. And so if we're looking at these, and we may say, we still need to be doing this or recognizing this, or this is what it looks like within the district, then we would write it up as an admin regulation or procedure. And sometimes those names are used interchangeably, so we just want to be clear with when we move forward, what it will be. But if it's operationalizing the work that happens in the district, it would be more in line with an admin regulation or admin procedure versus a policy.
Can I follow that?
Maybe I can add some clarity to that too. In looking at districts that have done a thorough job of reviewing their policies, most of them have somewhere around 20 to 25 policies. And then anything that is operational are called admin procedures. In our district, it's always been policies and regulations. Some of what is here are job descriptions, which are neither. They're neither policies, regulations, or admin procedures. They're a job description, which belongs somewhere else. So, I mean, you asked a really important question because we don't actually have admin procedures, we have regulations. And I think once, because we're not there yet, the work that Deb has been undertaking is looking at what I called last time low hanging fruit, just ones that need to be either put somewhere else or deleted. Eventually, we will start talking about what is the policy. Do we want to keep regulations? Are they going to be called admin procedures? The work that BCSTA is doing will bring forward to partners table and to the board table. So for now, all we're looking at here is there are no admin procedures per se. We're not going to move any of these into admin procedures. The job descriptions will go and live in HR, and the other ones are either already in collective agreement or need to be deleted because they're obsolete. Does that help?
Almost, I'm almost there, thank you. So the admin procedure, how would that come to the board? Would that be a board discussion? Yeah.
Usually for regulations or admin procedures, it comes to the board for information. not necessarily for, and we're not there and ready to make any of those kind of changes yet. We're working on the small stuff.
Can I,
Yeah.
also depending on the stakeholder group that's impacted, it would come as a conversation. And, you could seek feedback, so some of them should come to, PRC meeting if it has that, we've done that in the past. Some of them could come to the Indigenous Education Council meeting if they have, areas, and so I would see it being used based on where is this impacting and how is it impacting, and making sure we're capturing the voices. There is a, bylaw on the development of an admin regulation. And so, unless that changes, we would be doing something to make sure people are aware, but some of them have very little impact, and so it would come as an information item into the group.
Thanks, I guess my family just one more tiny thing. Yeah, when I look at the ones that you selected, I see why, but I suppose I think particularly the 1325.4 for the publicity for non-school events. That does seem to me like a governance question, because it's about sort of a way that our school community would look at what kinds of things come into our schools and how they're shared. Certainly, I don't dispute that policy from 1972 deserves some scrutiny, but I would think that that could be a board discussion and a board decision and a board governance question. This was my wonder, would that ever again come to the board, that kind of question?
I think that, I don't know anyone that's used this policy, so if it's not a used policy, it's not useful. And the date on it being 1972, maybe there is a policy that would encompass this at some point, but to have a policy from 1972 that's never been looked at seems like it's irrelevant. What I think, when we start digging into this in a bigger way, we want policies that are going to be governance related and also useful and important and sometimes philosophical in nature to capture what is important to a board. So I've been sent information for a meeting that's coming up, and it's looking at districts that have actually gone through that work, and I'd like to at some point share what I think there's about 25 districts have done around those, and so I see where you're going to, because but nobody actually uses this. So should we keep it? That's how we ended up with 177 policies, is because people in the past would just say, well, it looks okay, let's just keep it. In the time that I was in the district, we had somebody that was their job was policies. That position was cut many, many years ago. And really, there was no one that would take this on kind of off the side of their desk. So it was, and there's no blame here to any group. It's just, that's what happens. And it happens in lots of public organizations. So you just keep it because it's easier. So for now, what we're trying to do here is let's just keep looking at policies and see which ones can or obsolete should just go for now. The bigger and the harder work is coming next. Yes.
Thank you so much for taking this work on. I think it's very important to will down from 177 policies. If I'm correct, it's policies that are both for good governance to share with stakeholders, with parents and students, for example, what they can expect of the school district and how they can hold the administrators and the governing trustees, I guess, to account on those. So there's that accountability and transparency piece as well. So how are you engaging parents around these changes? And I want to know, we can't see this big picture of here are all the policies that existed from grade 4 to now. And here's kind of where we're gonna move to, so we don't end up losing some of those big pieces.
Exactly.
If you're looking at these piecemeal, and that we see like the policy and regulation coming at the same time, so we can kind of critique it, I guess, from a more informed place. Because really, like, for example, and 3 policies that are around student support that are going to be deleted, there's Director of Student Support Services, First Nation District Counselors, District Principals, Special Education Services, for example, right, around student support. So how will these be replaced in a way
They will, their job description, which is not a policy, and they will live in HR like any other job description.
Yeah.
So all of the job descriptions in the school district, not all of them were made into policies. I don't know why these were policies. There's just a handful of them. Like any, job description, some of the jobs don't actually exist anymore. The titles changed, so it's, we're not saying we're going to get rid of,
Student
the
support
work that they do, it's
Yeah.
the job description doesn't exist anymore or has changed substantially.
So will this be in captured in policy?
No, it will
versus-
be in a policy because it's a job description, which is
No, I
not a
mean,
policy.
I think the intent of the fact that we have student support services and these jobs will support it.
It is already a policy.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that would be,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah,
kind
the
of nice
importance
to
of
see, like-
inclusion, for example, is
Yeah.
policy, yeah. Yeah,
So, okay.
that won't change.
It would be nice that it would be there, like in the package, that would be saying like these policies will be replaced in these ways and captured like this.
Well, that's what Deb has written in her memo is, these are job descriptions, most of them, those jobs don't exist anymore. Those are gonna be moved. What, as far as your initial question, which is how are parents gonna be involved? I don't know yet, like, I think, we're too early in the process, and I'll be consulting you to ask that question as well. You know, how, once we have information, and I'm sure that'll be in the, probably not till the new year, maybe December, about, okay, here's kind of best practice around the province, here are the policies that every school district that have done a big review have. Let's take a look at them, and then here are admin procedures that, those districts have, or, I can't answer that question right now, because I don't know what it's gonna look like, but I'll be asking you for sure. How would this look for parents?
I would love to know, because
Yeah.
it's very challenging to engage parents in general, and so if these are important for governance and transparency, then I'd be asking you as well.
Yeah, no, fair enough, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just not that far along.
Okay, fair.
Okay, if there's no other question, the motion to, the deletion of the, well, the motion says that Fish Trustee, School District 61 Greater Victoria approved the deletion of the following board policies. 1162, 1325.4, 21.01, 2110, 2115, 2120.010, 21.20.020, 0.025, 0.3, 0.030, 0.026, 2123.041, 2127.07, 22, 12.2, 4152.51, 4199, 4220.3, 6164.1. That was a mouthful, and that motion was carried. Okay, moving on to E, Secretary Treasurer's report.
Thank you. If you want to turn to page 105 in the agenda package, I'll be referring to the report that is in there. Just identifying that this report was done based on the enrollment that was on September 29th and submitted to the ministry. It's not been finalized by the ministry yet, but it would be close to the final numbers. It's what we have available to present this evening. And what this report does is it
it gives an enrollment update for the current year that we're in now. So we did some projections for enrollment, back in February. And used those numbers when we created the, annual budget for this year. So what you can see in this report, are the actual, numbers, the actual enrollment compared to what was projected in February, and also actuals from the prior year. So we'll just go through the report and highlight some of the variances. So if we're looking at K to 12 school age, just highlighting kindergarten on its own, we are down 49 FTE from our projections and down 67 FTE from last year. Elementary total, so all grades K to 5, we're down 143 FTE from projections, and we're down 292 FTE from the prior year. And then moving to middle total, we're up by 10 FTE from what we projected, and we're up by 75 from the prior year. And then secondary, we're up 65 FTE from the projection. And we're up 155.6 FTE from the prior year. I'll just highlight secondary is a little bit different. So the 65 FTE increase is made up of 21 students, but also 44 FTE related to the conversion of headcount to FTE. So it's a ratio. So grades kindergarten to grade 9 are always counted as 1 FTE. But as soon as you get to grade 10 through 12, 1 FTE is 8 courses, and a lot of our students take more than 8 courses. So if we, in the memo, there's a table that shows on average what the ratio is. The current ratio is 1.103. So we're actually getting more funding per student because they're taking more than 8 courses. And then total school aged is overall we're down 67.7 FTE from projection, 67 FTE from the prior year. And then we'll also just highlight some of the changes in our supplement for unique student needs. So that's inclusive learning starting with level 1, up 2 from projection and 1 from the prior year. Level 2, we've seen a bigger increase of 135 from our projection and 137 from the prior year. Those increases are due to new autism diagnoses and support needs, especially in the early years. And it could also be attributed to the number of families who are accessing outside assessments and supports. And then for level 3 in inclusive learning, we're seeing a decrease of 23 from what we projected and a decrease of 21 from the prior year. English language learners were up 150 from projection and the prior year. And this can be attributed to the increase in the ministry funded international students. So those are students whose parents are in Canada on study or work permit. And also immigrant permanent residents and families who are new to the district and eligible for ELL services. And Indigenous education, we're down 17 from projections and the prior year. And the reason for this change is that we had a large number of grade 12s exit the district in June and a smaller number of kindergarten students coming in September. And lastly, adult education, 4.9 decrease from projection and 4.275 from the prior year. And just a final comment on funding that's tied to this. So as I mentioned,
our projections were used for our annual budget, our preliminary operating grants. So once our enrollment, the 1701 report is finalized by the ministry, they'll recalculate our operating grants based on these enrollments. And we'll get another funding announcement in mid-December. And then our financial services team will be working from then through till the end of February on the amended annual budget. So we'll see the impact of any of those changes at that time.
Thank you. It's always disappointing when you're down, because it's not good news for the budget, but see where that goes. Thank you. Next, up is budget development process. It's a draft. I think next month we'll have a better, clearer idea of what the actual dates are, but just high level, would you like to just go through the attachment, please?
Yeah, so included in the agenda package is a draft of the 26-27 budget development process. And just highlighting some of the key pieces. We want to make sure we have opportunities for student voice and engagement with partners of SB 61. So we've included meetings with students and partners. We'll also be meeting with the Indigenous Education Council on grants related to Indigenous students as part of the process. And our initial thoughts are to present a draft budget that's balanced based on our projected enrollment. So prior to the ministry funding announcement in early March, so before spring break. And then once we get the ministry funding announcement, which will probably be by the end of the week, March 13th, we'll have spring break and then come back either late March or early April and present another version of the budget with the confirmed funding from the ministry. And then the final budget will need to be approved April 8th at the latest. So that staffing package can go out to schools on April 10th. And then we're hoping to do a post-budget survey again, just to get some feedback on the budget process itself.
Thank you, and I know we'll be talking about this at our partners of SB 61 table meeting to finalize kind of dates and the process that'll come back in November. All right, monthly financial report, please.
So included in your agenda package is the monthly financial report for September. Page 109 starts. And just highlighting that because of the timing of this meeting, report for September 2025 was run before month end. Whereas last year it was run after month end, so there might be a few things that are not included this year. The budget that's included in this report is the preliminary budget and then many changes that have been made since then. And the actuals will be for 3 months, so July to September. And if you look on page 109, revenue, and just highlighting the percentage column, and that represents the portion of revenue that was budgeted, but have not yet received or recognized. And so current year we're at 80%. Last year this time we were at 81%, so pretty close. And then total expenses is on page 111. The percentage column for the expenses represents the portion of expense budget that's still available to spend. And so we're current year, we're at 86%, which is exactly the same as where we were last year.
Thank you. And to cap it off, how about the monthly budget change report?
The monthly budget change report, this is a report that captures all revenue changes and only significant expense changes since the preliminary or annual budget was approved. On page 112 is the operating fund.
And under changes, amending budget, there's just one new item that's been added since last month, and that's miscellaneous donations and revenue at 18,000. And then, if you go to the next page, page 113, special purpose, everything on there was there last month except for the National School Food Program. That's a new one, 374,000. It's actually year 2 of 3 years of federal funding, that's been provided as a complement to the Feeding Futures. And then lastly, the capital fund on page 114, there's been no changes. Usually what's reflected here are the interest. But those are entries that are done during month end, so we'll
Okay.
see that caught up next. Sorry.
Okay, thank you so much. Moving on to F is, question period. We have one question that was submitted by Anna Warhurst, and the question is, what is the future plan for School Cash Online and the downloading of 4% fees onto families? How long can we expect this to continue? I'm going to pass it back to Secretary Treasurer to answer that one.
Yeah, I guess just a reminder that the decision to move to value-based pricing, with School Cash Online was made in April 2024. During the 24-25 budget development process. Unfortunately, there is no option for us to move away from value-based pricing, with KEV. And there's currently no plan to move away from using KEV School Cash Online for fee collection in schools. We have looked at other options, and all of the ones that are currently available also have similar fees.
Thank you. I have heard, and I don't know if this is accurate, that we as a school district have been quite overt in sharing that 4%. And there are other school districts where the fee is there, but nobody's ever talked about it. Is that accurate?
I think with KEV, if you started with them years ago, you may be on a different model, but if they don't offer it anymore, so any school district using KEV School Cash Online, I don't know how many.
No, I meant it's a hidden fee.
Yeah.
It's there, but it's not.
Yes,
over.
absolutely, they all are charging the same,
Okay.
if not more.
Okay. Thank you. That's the end question period. G is public disclosure of in-camera items, and you can find that on page 15. And there are nothing under H. So that takes us to I, which is a motion to adjourn. Thank you very much for attending tonight, and have a wonderful rest of your evening.